This happened in 1995 when I was 22 years old. I had just started living on my own in my first apartment. I worked as a waitress at a restaurant a few blocks away. That night, I got off work around 11 p.m. It wasn't unusual for me to walk home late. There were two ways I took to get to my apartment building. I could stick to the sidewalk, well lit, with decent foot traffic, or I could cut through the communal garden, pitch black and set back from the street. I saved about a minute by going through the garden. Being young and stupid, of course, most of the time I took the shortcut. That night, though, I got a weird gut feeling not to take the shortcut. There was no one else around, and the entryway into the garden seemed darker than usual, so I walked right past it and kept to the sidewalk. When I passed the exit of the garden where I would have come out, suddenly a large man popped out from the garden behind me. I saw him appear over my shoulder, and a chill ran down my spine. He wasn't walking on the garden path when I passed the exit. I would have noticed him. The only logical explanation was that he had been hiding in the pitch black garden. He came out just to start following me. Was his original plan to grab me and pull me into the garden, or was he some drunk person who accidentally caught me by surprise? I began walking faster. My dad had taught me to always carry my keys in my fist with a key pointed out in case I needed to punch someone, so I had that, but I'm 5'4" and probably weighed 110 pounds back then. This guy was tall and big. My only chance was to outpace him. Even when I started speed walking, I felt him matching my pace and getting closer. He was breathing heavily, and he had this angry energy coming off of him. My apartment building was just up ahead, so I put on a burst of speed. When I got to the entrance, two people were leaving and holding the door for me and him. I don't know why I didn't call out to tell them I thought I was being followed. I was completely focused on getting inside my apartment. Plus, in the back of my mind, I was still trying to rationalize it. Maybe he was visiting someone in the building. Maybe it was all just a coincidence. I was just being paranoid. And in the end, it didn't matter. It took only a couple of seconds for them to leave. I had missed my chance to get help from them. I entered the building with the man following right behind me and started climbing the stairs as fast as I could. It was a 3-story building, and I lived on the 3rd floor. I raced up to the top, but the man was never more than 1 floor behind. I got to my floor, which had 4 apartments on both sides of the hallway. My door was the 3rd on the right. By the time I passed the first 2 doors of my neighbors, the man was already exiting the stairwell. When I got to my door, I froze. I realized that if I opened my door, he would catch up to me before I could get in and lock it. He would force me inside, and then I'd be trapped with him, doomed to suffer through whatever he wanted to do with me. I might not even live through it. As I considered this, he walked behind me, passing by just an inch away, close enough for me to smell him. He was disgusting. I wanted to run away and throw up and scream all at the same time. He stopped in front of the 4th apartment, where I knew he didn't live. He didn't say anything. He just stood there staring at me, breathing heavily. He also didn't knock on the door, making it even more clear that he wasn't visiting. He was waiting for me to open my door so he could attack me. I knew the momentary standoff wouldn't last long. Eventually, he would try to make something happen by force, so I racked my brain trying to think of a way out. Suddenly, I started banging on my door as loud as I could, and I yelled my neighbor's name, begging him to let me in. This action startled the man. He seemed even more confused when it wasn't my door that opened, but the door right in front of him. My neighbor Kevin saw the random guy standing right in front of his door and asked what he wanted. The guy started mumbling something about having the wrong apartment, and while he was distracted, I quickly slipped into my apartment and locked the door. I grabbed my cordless phone to call the police, but I heard Kevin in the hallway telling the man he needed to leave. I watched anxiously through the peephole until he finally walked away, making one last bone-chilling glance at me through the door. Kevin knocked on my door moments later and asked if I'm okay. I thanked him and said that I was fine, but on the inside, I was still terrified. The adrenaline was still pumping through my veins. I told Kevin to have a good night. Then I locked my door again. Alone, I had my phone in my hand ready to call the police, but I started trying to rationalize it again. What exactly had just happened? A guy followed me home, but then said he had the wrong apartment? Would the cops even care about something minor like that? I tried to calm myself down, but the more I thought of it, the more I berated myself. Why didn't I run the instant I felt him following me? Why didn't I tell the people in front of the building that I thought I was being chased? Worse, why didn't I tell that to Kevin the second he opened his door and saved me? I put him in danger by making him go face to face with a person who could have been capable of anything. Because of my panicking brain, everything felt so ambiguous. I felt like I made almost every wrong decision possible. I knew I was incredibly lucky to be okay, and I never forgot about it. A couple of weeks later, I visited my grandparents, and my grandfather read to me a story in the paper he was reading. He told me that a woman was attacked and violated in the apartment building across the street from mine. Then I saw the picture of the man who did it. It was the same guy that came after me that night. He had multiple convictions for sexual assault and had recently been released on parole. Had he been successful in following me into my apartment, the victim would have been me.